everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 46 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with the indie authors that you should be reading. It is Thursday, October 31st, 2019, and oops, I missed last week. I have been kind of crazy trying to finish up projects, and I think around Tuesday I thought, did I upload a show? Nope, I didn't. So sorry. Sorry about that. Let's see, what have I been working on? I am trying to finish up my second book in the June Nash Misadventure series. I've got a lot of people asking for it, and I keep saying soon, soon, very soon. So soon, it'll be ready soon. And I've been getting ready for Nanowrimo. If you don't know what that is November. Every year, people get together and they write a 50,000 word book for National Novel Writing Month. And it's been around for a long time. I think a guy and a bunch of his friends started it. They did it by themselves, and then they just had friends who wanted to join in, and it's going strong. There's a lot of people that do this all around the world, and it has resulted in a lot of really good books that have been published. And so this year I am going big and biting off more than I can chew, I'm sure. I am going to do the first draft of the third book in my June Nash Misadventure series. And I am outlining the first book in a new horror series. Very excited about that. And when I'm not working on those, I'll be formatting a 6-book nonfiction series that my writing partner and I are working on. And it's done, but I am doing all the formatting now. And Lisa says, when are you going to be done? Oh, I'm working on the formatting. I'm working on it. So that will be out soon. I probably won't have a definite date next week, but in 2 weeks, either I'll have a date or it'll be already published. So if you are interested, just check out my website, MELISSA, B as in boy, AN as in Nancy, C as in car, Z as in zebra, AK.com, Melissa Banczak, just like it sounds. And I'll have information on there about the prompt book soon. Something else that I got to do, I need a virtual assistant. I really do. I really need somebody who can do all these little chores that take up so much time so I can just stick to writing. Okay, so today, let's get to today's show right now. And I have got a really good show for you today. I'm very excited about it. I am reading this book that I'm having the best time reading. It is Noir. It is called Miami Burn, and I am talking to John D. Patten, Patten. And let's get right to it, and I'll see you after. Welcome, John. How are you today?
I am doing great. Thank you very much, Melissa, for having me. This is an honor.
Oh, I had such fun reading your book. And let me read a description of the book for everybody. This is the first in the series. It's called Miami Burn, right?
Yes.
I want to get the title right. Okay, so here's the description. Titus came to Miami to kill a man, plain and simple, fresh off a prison stint for a crime he didn't commit and out for blood. But when a wealthy socialite begs Titus to track down her missing daughter, he dives headfirst into the seedy Miami underworld of lowlife, thugs, celebrity wannabes, and women as beautiful as they are deadly. Titus soon finds himself up against an organized crime boss, a crooked politician, and a hard-nosed Miami detective. Nobody, it seems, wants the girl found, but Titus doesn't scare easy. Armed with 2 fists and razor-sharp wit, Titus unravels a deeper mystery, darker and more twisted than a simple missing girl. Very excited. So, noir is such a interesting genre. You know, there are such expectations for it. And from your bio, you know, you talk a lot about reading a lot of noir as a kid growing up.
Yes.
And so this is what you definitely knew that you wanted to jump into was noir.
Yes, definitely. First, let me pitch the sunglasses. This is just part of my gimmick, my dressing as Don Johnson kind of thing. It's Miami Burn, Miami Vice. So here we go.
There you go. Yeah. So you've got very specific. Yeah, you've got very specific genre expectations. So does that make you feel closed in, or do you kind of roll with that and go with what the audience wants?
No, that's what I've always known that I've wanted to write. Way back when I first started writing. In fact, in my high school creative writing class, I wrote a detective story not too dissimilar from this. The detective was in Boston, but I had grown up on detective stories, James Bond, really tough guy adventure type things. But when I get to college, I started reading the Spencer series by Robert B. Parker. I don't know if you've ever read those.
Oh
And
yeah, they're good.
they were just my ultimate. They were my inspiration, and it was just the typical hard-boiled, tough private eye, tough guy who had these friends that he would rely on with code of honor. And so I grew up on this. I didn't need to learn. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that want to learn new genres and learn to do new things, but I always knew this was it for me. I always knew that when I started writing, this is it. And even now I look at markets and I go, well, I could maybe learn to write for that market, or I could learn to write for this market. But I know this particular one, it's in my blood. And so it's not something that I actually need to think about too much. So I know I just need to really stick with this and make it just as really solid and as good as I can get it, almost in a way to reinvent it, to bring it back to life, because Robert B. Parker was just one in a series of classic writers who came along, starting with Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett back in the 1920s and 30s, moving along to John D. MacDonald through the 1950s and 60s. And nowadays we have a lot of people who are also writing fantastic detective fiction. But I like to go back to that old style, that really hard-nosed, tough guy style.
Yeah, did you ever watch the TV show that they based
Oh,
on the Spencer
yes.
novels?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that was what made me buy the first book. And it was on TV at that particular time. And the TV show was okay. I mean, it was all right. The actor that played Hawk, the character of Hawk, was
It
perfect.
was fantastic, but they miscast
They
Robert
did.
Ulrich.
Robert Urich. Now, I always
Urich.
liked Robert Urich. He was a great guy. But when you read the Spencer novels, Spencer is this giant guy. He's not Robert Urich. And even though when I read them now, and I still hear Robert Urich's voice, but I picture it on a different body, kind of, when I read it. But I always picture Avery
Yeah.
Brooks, the actor who later went on to Deep Space Nine, as Hawk, the character. He
Yes.
just nailed it perfectly.
He's amazing. Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
way that they tasked Tom Cruise to play Jack Reacher.
Oh, yes. I know there was a lot of Sturm und Drang about that.
He's redoing Lee Child is redoing the show or the series or something, and he says they've cast someone much better. In my mind, I always pictured John Cena.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I'm not certain I know who that is.
he was the wrestler.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Senna. Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
I'm
He,
sold already. When you
yeah,
say
he was
wrestler, that's
just.
already better than Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah, he was just John Cena. If I'm saying it right, is just this big guy, and I just when I started reading the Jack Reacher books, he's immediately who I thought of.
Right.
He's large, the big neck, the huge guy, and you just kind of he comes in and he
Yeah.
commands a room, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Robert Urich, just I loved him, and
Same
loved
here. Yeah.
Lazarus, the show he did right before he died. Did you see
Oh, right.
Lazarus?
Yes, that was a
Lazarus
Western,
Man?
wasn't it? Uh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was a
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Western. It was a Western. He crawls out of a shallow grave. He
Yes,
has no idea who tried to kill him. Oh, it was amazing. And
that
then
was fantastic.
unfortunately he got sick and they canceled the show as soon as they found
I
out he was
know.
sick.
I know.
And
So sudden and so horrifying.
oh,
I mean,
it
that really hurt
was.
me because I liked the guy, and he
Yeah.
meant so much to me as being part of that particular series. Even
Yeah.
though, you know,
Yeah. And I like him. I can accept him as the character. But yeah, when I
right.
saw the show, I think I was in high school when it came out and I thought, that's not
Yep.
him. That's not him. Okay,
Yep.
so you're writing noir
Yes.
and there's the set expectations.
Yes. Definitely.
How do you handle writing female characters without pigeonholing them into that box, that one-dimensional type character that noirs seem to do?
It is always a challenge. I believe that any of us have a challenge writing a character from the opposite gender, definitely. But I think that what I do is I just draw on people I've known, which is not to say that all characters in this book are fictitious and, all that. However, there are certain aspects of things I've seen and I've been a part of that you can't help but sort of bring into the story, just little ways that people have reacted. And that's kind of how I approach it. I don't try to assume that I can actually know how a female character is thinking. However, I just write it from Titus's perspective. And I think that also fits neatly into the noir category, because a lot of noir books, especially the Raymond Chandler ones, they were very first person, and there was just a ton of everything is from the character's perspective. So when I write from my character Titus, when I write from his perspective, basically how the characters react, how the female characters react, I just write the reactions rather than trying to figure out all of the details. And I know a lot of people have gotten into trying to figure out exactly how to write perfect for the other gender, but I just go with what I've seen, what I've observed, what I've known in my own personal life, and attach it to Titus's observations. And I think that's the closest any of us can get, because even as a female writing for a male, you only have your own perspective and your life, the way you've seen things, and that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that Sophie is it Sophie or Sophia?
Sophia, yeah,
Sophia.
yes.
I've had a sister-in-law named Sophie, so I'm keep going back to
Yep.
that. But
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
Sophia feels very rounded as a character.
Okay.
She
Good.
didn't at first, but then as she goes along and
Yeah.
you see her more and they have more interactions, I really see more sides to her.
Good.
Especially when she talked about her family. I don't want to give anything away, so
Right.
I don't
That's
want
okay.
to give away
That's all right.
any of it. But yeah, so I think that it's I think you're right. Looking
Thank
at
you.
going from how they react to him is a good way to do it, because it is told in the first person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a perfect way.
And I did have a very, very specific type of character in mind for Sophia, just because I wanted to flip a little bit of the characters from Spencer on their heels. So I have been inspired obviously by Robert B. Parker, and so I thought, okay, Spencer had this girlfriend, Susan Silverman. She was a psychotherapist. Not everybody's favorite character in the reading world.
Yeah.
And so I figured, okay, what if instead of having my character Titus's girlfriend as somebody else, I can combine her with the cop who is always chiding Titus for, stay out of our business, we're the police, we'll handle it, you stay out of it. But at the same time, she becomes his girlfriend. And so that was the idea that I played with there. And I really went deep on her character. And I will admit that the character that Michelle Rodriguez played in the TV series Lost had a lot to do with my initial just the visual interpretation, and the fact that she was a former police officer and she had some troubles of her own, and that was kind of my visual inspiration along the way. And
That's a
so
good one, because she played the character really well.
yes, she did.
I think I stopped watching when she was killed.
I
Spoiler
did too.
alert.
It went downhill from that moment, as far as I was concerned.
It really did. Well, I tend to not watch. I think I watched religiously the first season, and I'm really bad about watching second and third seasons of things. And I think I watched off and on, kind of spotty, and then it just got so weird.
The
It
first
didn't
season was
follow its
brilliant.
own rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The first season was one of the most brilliant seasons of television, and then the second was like, what? And then the third.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They didn't sit down and make a series Bible. And
No.
anyone who writes series, you have to sit down and write, what are your goals for the long term? Because if you don't, your fans are going to be pissed. And
Yes.
I know that right now I'm writing a sci-fi series and I have shadowy figures, and I'm like, I really need to figure out who these shadowy figures are, instead of just calling them shadowy figures for 6, 7, 8 books or whatever.
Right.
So
because the writer of that show, they got to season 7 and they were like, oh, we have to write an ending. Oh, we didn't think about that, did we? Oh, we thought we were going to be canceled. Okay, let's write an ending. Oh, I have an idea. I'm not going to say it for anyone that hasn't seen the show, but let's just say it's not where we all wanted the show to go.
No. And it just, it didn't mesh with so much that was happening in the show.
Yeah.
And it just, ick. So
Yeah.
let's get back to writing.
All right.
Okay. So I come from screenwriting. So
Oh,
I just
okay.
have one novel out, one short story out,
Mm-hmm.
and about 3 that I'm working on right now that'll be out soon, and a nonfiction series I'll be talking about later.
Wonderful.
Anyway,
Awesome.
so
Forward to that.
so I come from screenwriting. So every time I would get to action scenes, you
Mhm.
always write a fight ensues. That's all you write, because the stunt coordinator is going to come in and they're going to do it all. There's no reason to write anything more.
Mm-hmm.
So when I start writing books, now my first book, there's really no fight scenes. I mean, she gets into trouble, it's a mystery, you know, and that kind of thing. But I have another book where there are fight scenes. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what am I going to do? So
Right.
how do your book is full of fight scenes. How do
Yeah.
you handle putting fight scenes together? Do you act them out?
No, well, actually, yes, I do. In fact, I did study some YouTube videos that showed how to handle particular situations. Like, I'm sure you said you've been more than halfway through the book, so you've gotten to the part where Titus had the fight scene with Eddie Corrado in the men's
Yes.
room of the club.
Yes,
That
that was
was
great.
completely. I said, okay, I just Googled how would you handle if somebody put a knife against your throat, and I watched this YouTube video.
Oh,
And I just watched the video maybe 10 times. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to describe in detail everything this particular guy does. And
yeah.
that's what I did. And now I know actually how to handle myself in that situation. It's never happened to me, knock on wood that it ever does. But now,
No wonder, because I read it thinking, boy, I can totally visualize what's happening. And that's why,
Mhm,
I'm going to steal that idea.
yeah. Another technique is, again, going back to Robert B. Parker. I did write out some of his fight scenes and some of his action scenes. And there was an advertising copywriter many years ago. I think his name was Gary something. His thing was to learn to write ad copy, which is what I used to do before I wrote fiction. He said, just handwrite all of the great ads. Just take the great ads and just handwrite them so you feel like they're coming from you, so you feel like you are writing them, and the whole process gets sort of embedded in your subconscious. I did that with a handful of fight scenes that Robert B. Parker wrote in the Spencer series, not to copy them, not to plagiarize, but just to embed the patterns and the
Yeah.
descriptions and things. And I didn't handwrite, because I typically write at a keyboard. I just basically just typed them out really fast, and from the screen, and just embedded the framework of how that feels to write a scene like that. Then I wiped everything clean and just wrote mine from scratch with the framework of feeling like I had already written a fight scene, even though
Yeah.
I hadn't.
Well, it worked.
Well, thank you.
It worked.
Thank you. I hope so.
So the book is like 300. It's a good size.
Yeah.
355 pages.
It's yeah. The first one is long. The second one is a little shorter. The third one is much shorter. In fact, I think I'm actually heading more towards the 50,000 word range. The one you read was 90,000, and then the next one I think was 80,000, and now I'm heading towards 50. And honestly, I personally I think that 50 is a nice manageable range. And kind of the way I look at it is the first 2 books, or the first 3 even, set Titus up in
Yeah.
this world, in this new, because he's from Boston, and he comes to Miami to do something, which gets worked out eventually, but he gets stuck there, and he's a fish out of water. He's from the cold. He's from this other place. He used to be a cop. His whole life is gone. Everything he knew, his entire world has been pretty much nuclear destructed from where he was, and now he's sort of stuck here in this very strange. Miami is a very glitzy, very hot, very glamorous, and yet dark and murky place, both at the same time. And so I like writing the fish out of water, because I'm a fish out of water there too. I'm from Boston, and so I don't want people to think that I'm writing inauthentically. So I basically decided, okay, I was going to write this how I would feel seeing all these crazy things going on in Miami. But Titus is What was the original question? I've gone off on a
God, I
tangent.
can't remember.
I'm just babbling.
No, it's okay. It's all fascinating. Yeah, I lived in Boston for the first 12 years. I think I was 9 months old when we moved there, and I lived there
Oh,
till
yeah?
12. We lived in Winthrop, right across from Logan
Oh,
International Airport,
yes.
off of Sargent Street. Anybody on, I think it was like 1926 Sargent Street, right? The end of Sargent Street, right at the water. We lived on the beach. And then we moved to North Tewksbury.
I
I
I know
decided
both.
we wanted to
I
be
know
in the
both
middle
quite
of
well.
nowhere. Yeah. So there was nothing out there when we moved there. I
Yeah.
think they got a mall like the year we left. Malls really were just starting to come in. We left in 76. So malls were just
Mhm.
starting to come into things
Yeah.
about that time. But I love Boston area, and I have such fond memories of it. And I keep telling my husband, we're going to get in the car. We're in Florida right now on the Treasure Coast. So we're going to drive. We're going to fly to Washington, New York, and then drive up and go through all of the states there, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont,
It's beautiful.
all that stuff. Yeah, I miss going, and then up into New Brunswick. I just miss all that so much because we would go off on weekends and go hiking,
Yeah.
and that's all we did. And as a kid, I hated every moment of it. Oh my God. But as an adult, I wish I could go back and relive. But my mom used to give us Dramamine. So my sister and I'd be passed out in the back seat. She'd be like, "Are you looking out the window?" No, because I'm so drugged I can barely keep my eyes open, mother. So but I love to go back again. So my thing now is that my character is each, for this one series I'm working on, each book is set in a different city.
Okay.
So it's been fun. I said to my husband, I think she needs to be in Italy for one book, and we need to go for about 6 weeks to really absorb the culture, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
absolutely. Yes. And it's a
yes,
tax deduction too. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So,
It's-
okay, so your books are getting smaller. What would you, is there anything that you left out of this first one that would have made it longer?
Yeah, actually, there is. There was a character who was a huge character in in the first book. His name was Waztowski, and he was this guy who was being manipulated by Allie, the character Allie Hayes, into performing all of these crimes for her. And and that was the original idea, was that the villain was going to turn out. The girl was basically going to be the manipulator, the person that Titus was hired to find was going to be this really manipulative person who had all these guys performing all of these crimes for her. But as I started writing it, I just realized this just doesn't feel right. I don't know. It's almost a little too outlandish. It's almost a little too. And then I went for a walk. I do some of my best thinking when I go out for a very long walk outdoors. And then it hit me. I was like, oh. And according to what you told me, you haven't quite gotten to the part where all of the solution sort of falls into place.
Yeah, not yet.
And I didn't either. When I was at your point of writing the book, I still had this Waztowski character in there. And then it hit me one day. I'm like, oh, I see. Oh, now I know what's going on. Now I know what's really going on. And then you'll see that, there's a whole bunch of things, which I'm not going to tell you because you haven't gotten there yet. But then I realized the Waz character just doesn't work. I have to get rid of him. He just doesn't fit into all this. And so I just removed all his parts, which was great, actually. It really worked out because he didn't really quite fit in the book, and it probably would have been 120,000 words if I had left it all in. And but then it made it a much tighter, better book. And I think just the reason that one was so long, 90,000, and the second one, 80,000, is just because it's almost like the origin story of Titus. And
you need to do
now
more.
and now I'm heading into individual television episodes. That was like the first 2-hour premiere.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah,
now
and I don't miss what was his name?
Waztowski. He was not a good character, actually.
I don't miss him. I don't miss him at
No,
all. It does
you don't.
not feel like it doesn't feel like there's anything missing. It just flows along really nicely. And if my husband would just leave me alone and stop making me go on chores with him, I would be done already. I've been carrying my book around and like walking into walls because I just want to keep reading. I just want to sit and keep reading. And I have, I'm trying to prep for Nanowrimo, which starts November 1st. And I've got
Yeah,
a
we're
book
coming
series.
right up on that, aren't we?
Yeah, my co-writer and I have a book series that's coming out in a couple of weeks. So I've been trying to do all the prep work online for that. And it's like, I need about 30 hours in the day.
Yeah, definitely. 48 in one day.
Oh God, wouldn't that be just
I would
fantastic?
just,
If I could
I'd
stay awake.
love certainly.
I don't think I'd be able to. Not at all.
So much
Okay,
to
so you
do.
got, there's 3 books out right now.
3 at the moment. I'm working on the 4th one.
Okay, when will
Along
that one
with,
come out?
I don't know. I don't quite know yet. I thought January, but now I'm thinking it might be a little bit longer, only because I'm a stickler for quality, and it takes me a long time to get all of the verbiage right and all of the descriptions. And I know
Yes.
that a lot of people are all hung up on plot, and that's great. But plot is, to me, very important, but it's secondary. It's secondary to style. What
Yeah.
I what I want to what I want people to get from my writing is, first of all, maybe a vacation to Miami, because there's a lot of people who live in the cold. They want to take a vacation as a better version of themselves. You know, most people can't do all the tough guy things that Titus does. But second of all, there is kind of a, a rhythm and a pattern in the language. I use a lot of witty banter. I use a lot of tough guy banter. I use a lot of dialogue. And sometimes you write a scene of dialogue, and you come back to it a month later and you go, oh, no, that's wrong. I have to fix that. And it takes that month sometimes of being away from that particular scene to come back to it and go, no, I gotta, no, that didn't quite work, and fix it. And that's important to me. Those particular types of scenes, like you've obviously gotten past the part where Titus and Luther have a couple of scenes together, and they become best friends. And it took so long to write those scenes because I just wanted to get that relationship set up and really off to the right start. And I swear I rewrote those scenes 3, 4, maybe even 5 times.
Yeah, and it works really well. I really like Luther. I feel like you need to go back through and do a prequel to tell me what happened
Yeah.
to Titus, his girlfriend or wife. Was she his,
Ariel.
yeah, what happened to her, and what happened to what happened to him in that section before he came to Miami. And it's I don't feel like I'm missing anything because they allude to it along the way,
Right.
but I find myself going, that might be really interesting to know. Maybe even just something short that you send to just the people on your mailing list and nobody else gets it, you know?
Well, actually, the second and the third book will answer a lot of your questions.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, because I wrote this series. My idea was I want to have standalone book so that somebody can read and get a complete mystery from beginning to end that gets solved. And yet, above that, there's this arc of a longer story that is Titus's more personal story, and that plays out over the entire series. So I'm giving people who want a standalone what they want, but at the same time, I'm also giving people who want a longer series what they want as well, because there are these little continuing threads that keep moving forward, and you'll get to that as you get to the end of the first book, and it continues into the second, and then a whole new thing is opened up in the second book that answers a lot of your questions. One of the things I have not done yet, which I feel like I probably should do, is I haven't actually addressed what happened on Titus's first night in Miami when he's pulled over by Sophia.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, they kind of allude to it. I don't think you really need to say more unless
right,
it's relevant to what's going on, because in the very beginning of the book, you kind of allude to it. And then as he gets to know Sophia more and they talk about it more,
yep.
they actually discuss what happened that night to a
Mhm.
point. And I can kind of fill in the blanks in my head. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not something that
I
I'm
go back
going,
and forth. I go back and forth. I say,
yeah.
should I do a reader magnet? Should I do like a 20,000 word short story about what happened that night, or should I just leave it to everybody's imagination? And it might be actually better if I leave a lot of it unsaid. So
It
I
might
don't know.
be. Yeah. I mean, you could do like a short, um, like Janet Ivanovich does the Between the Numbers for Stephanie Plum.
Yes,
You could do
yes.
something small like that. So it's a small mystery that's like 20,000 words just for a
Perfect.
reader magnet, because then the people who follow you feel like they've got something special that nobody else knows about, kind of thing. So
Yes, and
which
I
is cool.
probably do need one of those. Yes, because to help grow the mailing list, and it's a very important marketing tool, as writers know.
It is, well, some readers don't really care. They don't want to get to know the author. They don't want to know any of the why you came up with this or that or anything. But some of them are like really, I mean, I get letters that ask me, okay, is so and so going to be in the book again? And is so
Yeah,
and so going to have a relationship? And I'm like, well, we'll see. We'll
yeah,
see. And it's like, no, I hadn't planned on having the person. They died in the first chapter originally. They
yeah.
accidentally became a character. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden I got people going, where is there going to be more with that person? Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
I get
So,
those definitely.
well, where can people find you so they can find your books and all about you?
Well, my website is www.johndpatten.com. And other than that, Amazon, just Google John D. Patten or just type in Miami Burn, and that's the first book in the series, or just type in Titus. I think Titus will actually get you to my series, Titus.
It might. Are your books in Kindle Unlimited?
Yes,
Okay,
def-
some people love that, so we'll make sure we mention that. Yeah, all three are in Kindle
absolutely.
Unlimited. So if you have, I think it's $9.99 a month. If you have that membership, you can have plenty of time to read the books because you can get 10 at a time. And then when you pick out 11th book, you have to get rid of one of the books. So if your husband keeps telling you, you have to go grocery shopping and we have to go to this and do that, and I got to put my book down because I can't read in the car or I'm driving and I shouldn't read in the car, then I have more time to read the books. So
Uh-huh.
oh, well, when you have the fourth book out, come back so you can
Oh, I would love
maybe
to.
read. Oh, I forgot to ask you if you wanted to read an excerpt from it.
Oh, I don't, I don't have an excerpt here with me at the moment. I could open one up maybe, but
I completely forgot if you want to do that.
oh, okay.
If you want to, I'll throw it at the front.
Okay, let's
Just a
see.
page or two?
Yeah,
Or,
sure. Oh, what was your favorite scene so far that you've read?
gosh, God, I like when let's see, let me look at the book here. I'm going back. Oh, I had
This is fun.
bookmarked something. I have so many. I go through and I highlight things. Can I find it quickly? Probably not. There was a line I really liked and I highlighted it. I'm scrolling back through 200 and something pages. Um, I liked them at the club. I liked when he was following. Oh, I liked it that when he went and saw the lady at the mother at the country club, and the guy and Z
Oh,
was sitting out front looking at him. Let me
all
see if
right.
I can
That's a good
find
one.
this. Yeah, that was a good one. You go ahead and do that. And I'm going to look and see if I can find this line. And if it's relevant, I'll read it back and tell how much I liked it. It's somewhere here.
Yeah, I pulled Luther's truck into the Lucadendra Country Club, but that is a direct homage to the author Elmore Leonard, who has set scenes at the Lucadendra Country Club in his book Cat Chaser, which is a 1981 novel. So that's a direct homage to the wonderful and very talented and now late Elmore Leonard, who's one of my great favorites. Let's see. Yeah, Titus goes looking for. This actually does have one of my favorite monologues that Titus has. He does a couple of monologues, and there's this chauffeur driver who's very stodgy, and he does not like Titus at all. His name is Chester, and he's Mrs. Hayes's driver, and he's just completely, oh, you are such a disgusting man. Is kind of his attitude. So Titus sees him and pulls up, and let's see, he pulls up along. I pulled up. I'm gonna assume Titus's voice now. I pulled up alongside. Chester rolled down the window and sneered at me over gray lapels. "What are you doing here?" he said, with just the right amount of indignant outrage. "Looking for Mrs. Hayes," I said. "I thought Mr. Hayes told you your assignment was complete." "Wow, they keep you in the loop. Good for you, Chet." "Thing is, Mr. Hayes didn't hire me, and I found Allie. Well, sort of. I need to know where I know where she can be found at least one night of the week, and I need to get this information to Mrs. Hayes." And then, Chester says, "You can give it to me. I'll pass it along." I laughed, and this is Titus's monologue here. "See, Chet, you're not Mrs. Hayes either, so that's not going to work. Why the sudden cold shoulder? Doesn't she want me to do the very thing she so gratuitously paid me to do? By the way, are you impressed? I bet you didn't think I could use the word gratuitously in a sentence, did you? It was a lot of money, Chet. A whole lot. You should know. You handed it to me. You must be bringing home the bacon yourself with a boss who can make it rain like that, huh? But seriously, how would you feel if you were just shut out for no reason? No explanation. Just like that. Boom. Done. I mean, picture it. Mrs. Hayes tells you to drive to, I don't know, Val Harbor Shopping Mall. That's a place you might want to go, right? Halfway there, Mr. Hayes calls and says, Chester, I want you to pull over, get out of the car, and walk away from it, leaving Mrs. Hayes right in the middle of the highway. No explanation, no nothing, just hasta la vista, Chester. Don't call us, we'll call you. Wouldn't you be mad? I mean, just a little. Wouldn't you want to know why you were dumped midstream like that? Wouldn't you feel at least a tiny obligation to get Mrs. Hayes to the destination you were paid to take her to? And then Chester says, you are an annoying man. I'm calling the police. And he rolls up the window. So that's an example of the sarcasm that I employ for the Titus character. And he's always making sarcastic quips and comments all throughout it.
Yeah, he is. I found one of the lines. It's from, come on, come back to me. I can't find the other one. Oh, come on.
Okay.
Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So they were in the club and, oh no, he went to Since last night. So he's talking to, who's he talking to? Where is he? I'm trying to figure out where they are. Where are they? They're talking to somebody. I think it might have been when they were picked up.
He was talking.
Here it is. I just loved it. His eyebrows rose. Kittyland let you in. You too tall for those rides.
Yeah.
Is that
right.
is that
Yeah.
the guy that he borrowed the key from?
That's Luther. That is
Luther?
the preacher.
He's the preacher.
Who becomes,
I really liked their conversations.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Again, this goes back to Spencer and Hawk. Those were the kinds of back and forth banter conversations that Spencer and Hawk would have. I remember Spencer sitting in his car once, and the heater didn't work, and Hawk is sitting there with a cup of coffee, like, you need to get yourself a better car. We're gonna freeze to death out here. Well, just little things like that.
Yeah,
and that's the attitude that I'm bringing. Luther is in many ways the anti-Hawk, because whereas Hawk was this bad guy who did good things, Luther is a really good guy. He's a preacher who occasionally does bad things and comes from a bad background, but has totally reformed himself. And so I wanted to write the anti-Hawk. And yeah, so in that scene there, Titus is Titus.
Yeah, that's it. I like that scene, and yeah, I like Luther. I like what he has in his garage. I won't say it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's very eye-opening.
Yeah, it's like, okay. I totally tells me so much more about this character. Okay, so
he's not a normal preacher.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so they can find you at www.johndpatten.com.
That is correct.
On Amazon.com, and you are in Kindle Unlimited. So for all you lovers of that out there, you can read all 3 books.
This is Titus Mystery Thriller Series, although I'm testing some new keywords. So right now it's Titus Tough Guy Action Series. So, but Titus is the main thing to remember. T-I-T.
Yeah, and I think when I just typed in Miami Burn, one of the options was a Titus something or other. And they all have
a gritty detective novel. That's I'm trying some new keyword phrases and things. We always have to try to improve our marketing.
We do. So that's Miami Burn.
They read
Miami
something
Chill.
completely different next week.
Yeah, and Miami Storm. So those are the 3. The 4 will be out. The 4th will be out sometime next year, right?
Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah, I want to make it good. So I'm all about quality. So
definitely, yeah.
Sometime next year, definitely. First part of the year.
When you have the 4th one ready, send me a message, and I'll have you come back on to talk about it when it comes out. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm having so much fun reading the book.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's
too.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, thanks, John. And I wish that I had recorded our entire chat, because when I hit the stop button to stop recording, we went on and we talked for about 20 more minutes, and he's so interesting and the conversation was so much fun, and it's not recorded, and I'm so bummed about that, because I would have loved to include snippets of that in today's interview. But today's interview was fun. What we did get recorded, and I recommend his books. They are great, and if you like noir especially. And it's Miami Burn, and let me see, Miami Storm is the third one. Let's see. Miami Burn, Miami Storm, and Miami Chill. So, and they are in Kindle Unlimited. So I'll have links in the show notes to John's website and to getting his books on Amazon. And if you have any comments about today, or there's a book that I need to read, please drop down to the show notes and leave me a note. If you're listening on the podcast, pull your car over, and you can click on the link, and it'll be the first link in the show notes. And if you're on YouTube, you know what to do. Don't send me an email, because then I forget about it, and I forget to mention them even. I get emails, and I really need to make notes to mention what people said in the emails. But if they send me an email, I'm going to forget to mention it on the show. And you just comment so I can remember to say it. So go ahead, leave a comment. And if you're on the podcast, can you please leave us some stars? We only have one review, and I'd love to get a few more. And let's see if that's about it, I guess, of the begging you to do things for me this week. And next week, I have got a great show. I should be chatting with another one of my favorite authors. I can't say her last name. She writes under, one of her pen names is Lydia M. Huck, and I'm going to say her other name wrong, so I'm not going to say it. She writes paranormal, and she writes romance, and I like both of her stuff, both of her series. And so I should be chatting with her next week. So come back for that. And if it's not her, it'll be somebody fun. So I will see you then. And in the meantime, go out and read a good book.